Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Meeting 2 English class. And today we are going to go on to the next agenda that will be organizing ideas. So previously you have learned how to find the topics and what is the form of the topics, and then what is the characteristic, or what are the characteristic of the topic itself. Now we're gonna go to the way to organize those ideas. First of all, you have to be familiar with this kind of the term, which is called as a mind map. Yeah, mind mapping or mind map. This is important in order to organize your ideas. When we write a scientific writing, of course we have an idea. The idea that will be developed into many things that come up into our mind based on our reading materials, based on the findings that we got over there. So that's why we need to organize those ideas into a good organization, which is called as a mind map. So what is the function of mind map itself? Number one, the function of the mind map is to arrange and organize your ideas. There are a lot of things come up to your mind, therefore you need to put them in a good order, so people will understand the main points that you would like to address to the reader. The second one, to avoid blank ideas. When we write, one of the biggest fear of any researchers or any writers in the world, in scientific or even in non-scientific writings, when they come up to the blank ideas. But when you have mind map at the beginning of the process, you try to put together what you're gonna say, what you're gonna talk about into your articles. It will make you able to avoid blank ideas. The third one is it can assist the development of your ideas. So every single ideas that you found later on need to be developed. You cannot just say one idea directly in short, but you need to clarify, you need to explain, you need to make a comparison with the theories and so on and so forth. Therefore, with the mind map, it's going to help you to assist the development of your ideas. And after that, to prevent long-winded draft. So sometimes when we write the scientific writings or non-scientific writings, there are a lot of things that we would like to say. And this is going to lead us to tell every single thing that come up into our minds, or every single thing that you read from the previous review of related literature. And of course, this kind of so many ideas will make you have a long-winded draft. In Indonesia, we call it bertele-tele, yeah. But when you have mind map, you have the map, you have the organization, you have the next direction that you need to come to. Therefore, it will prevent you to make a long-winded draft. Number 5, having a mind map will clarify the concept of the theory. So the purpose of making a scientific writing is to make the strength of the existence of theory, or to make a kind of additional information about the existence of the theory, or even to try to against the recent theory, or add those kind of the theory. So when we have the mind map, it will make us clear to see which concept of theory that we are going to develop, which concept of the theory that we are going to against, which concept of theory that we want to strengthen, yeah, and to strengthen, and so on and so forth. And number 6, the function of the mind map is to make you easier to find relevant references. So when you have an ideas and then you have the map of those ideas, so which kind of references that really relevant to those kind of thing, it will be easier for us to see. And then number 7, it will help an effective revisions. So if you see from the mind map something's not correlated each other, so it means that we need to revise them, we need to fix them. And then it's gonna be easier to see in a map compared to reread the whole of the draft. And the last one is it can trigger creative thinking. So when we see there is a kind of mistakes and there's a kind of gap that need to be filled up there, so we are triggered to think how it's gonna solve those kind of problems. So it will make us create and try to solve the problems. So it triggered your creative thinking. Next, how to make the mind map itself. How to do it. Number one is you have to refer to your title. You cannot make a mind map without having a topic yet, without having a good title yet. After you refer to the title, you have to arrange your subtopics. What are the things that support your titles? And number three, follow the template of your future journal publisher. Some of the publishers require you to make review of related literature in separate subtopics or subheadings. But some of the other journal articles do not require that. They ask you to put it and combine it into your introductions as well as your discussions later on. So you need to see and follow the template of your future journal publisher. And number four, you have to make a list of important ideas for each subtopics. So what are the important ideas for each of the subtopics? In a scientific article, the subtopics here referred to, number one is the introduction. Number two, there will be a review of related literature. Number three, there will be method. Number four, there will be result or findings. Number five, there will be discussion. And the last one, there will be conclusions. All of them we call it as a subheading or subtopics. So each of the subtopics or subheadings, you need to list what are the most important ideas for them. And the last one is make sure that you have topics for each of the paragraph. In each subtopics, you have many paragraphs, maybe 5, 6, or even more. So you need to be able to explain each of the paragraph. I will give you kind of analogy. If you want to talk about rose, for example, and then you plan to make 5-paragraph essay, the first that will be introductions about the rose itself. Maybe you talk about the definitions of the rose. Maybe this is the one types of the flower, yeah, and then it goes in almost many places in the world, for example. General ideas related to the rose. And for the second one, you come up to the things that you would like to talk about the rose. For example, you would like to talk about the types of rose, for example. And there are 3 types of rose that you would like to explain. The first one, maybe you will say, the first types of rose is Mediterranean rose. And the third paragraph, you will talk about, you may say that maybe the other types of rose, which is called, let's say, you will say European rose. And number 4, maybe you will talk about the other types of rose, which is the third types of rose. Maybe you will say Asian rose. And the last one, you will give the conclusions about the types of rose that you are actually mentions on the body of your essay. And then it means that every single paragraph, you have a topic. Topic number 1 in paragraph 1, actually general ideas about the rose. Topic in the second paragraph is about the types of rose number 1, which is Mediterranean rose. The topic for the third paragraph is actually the second types of rose, which is called European rose. The fourth topics that will be the topic of the fourth paragraph is Asian rose. And the last paragraph, the fifth paragraph, actually the conclusions of the whole of the ideas. So this is called as the topic of each paragraph. In every meetings, in every writing products, you have to have a topics in each paragraph. Of course, that is related to your subtopics. The subtopics will be related to the subheading. Subheading will be related to your title. Next, I'd like to remind you about your part in the project. So whether you become the person 1, person 2, 3 or 4 or 5. Okay, so if there are only 4, meaning that person's 5, that will be person number 4. So this is your part. Now you are going to be taught about the introductions. So when you come up to the introductions, yeah, when you make the mind mapping, please consider these following things. Number 1, the introduction must have the subtopic for each subheadings. Number 2, topic of each paragraph. Number 3, start with the definition of the subject of the study. And number 4, review of previous research. Number 5, gap, the novelty, the difference, the uniqueness of your study. Number 6, basic theory used in the study. So in this case, that the introduction is one of the subheading on your scientific writing. That is the meaning of number 1. And they will have many paragraphs in introductions. So you must have the topic for each of the paragraph. And this is the content of the introduction that you need to write down. You need to think about it. Yeah, so the person number 1 need to think, start from number 3. So what is the definitions of the subject of the study? What is the subject of your study? So this is going to be the definition. Clarify your subject. And then after that, you can give the kind of the previous studies, yeah, previous research related to the title, the one that you have already worked on the previous assignments, and bring it back to the introduction. After you provide the result of the previous research related to your title, then you have to see the differences, the gap, something that never been done under the same topics by the previous researcher. That's going to be the uniqueness of your study. That's going to be the novelty of your study. This is very crucial. And number 6, that will be the theory that you use for this study. And what kind of references, who is the great expert that you refer to. The expert could be one or more than one. And then this is going to be the basic foundation for you to develop the instrument of your study. When you make a questionnaire, for example, the question will be basically based on that theory. When you make the test, for example, all of the questions of the test will be basically from that kind of the theory. And after that, the empirical reasons. When you do the process of preliminary research, for example, you come to the school or you do the research in the mass media, or you see by yourself when you experience those kind of things. So this is called as empirical reason. You need to be able to clarify itself. You remember last week I asked you to write down your reasons, right? Or your rationale, why you choose the topic. This is going to be one of the things that you must write on your introductions. And how about the arrangement? Which one is the first and which one is the second? Actually, you start with the definition of the subject of the study. And after that, you may come up with the empirical reasons, or you may come up with basic theory first, and then after that, you come up with the previous research or the previous studies. But number 4 and number 5 should be in line. Okay, after you come with the number 4, directly come to number 5. But for number 3, that will be the first content of your introduction. But number 7 and number 6 can be between them. Okay. Next. Now, this is what you're going to do. Guys, person number 1, you are required to make only one single slide of PowerPoints, but it needs a lot of thinking. You need to read and you need to try to discuss with your group. Yeah. So for example, yeah, this is the title that I took it from an article published in Elsevier, and I think this is very important for you to learn. This is the link of the article. You can also learn it, yeah, even though you are not majoring in social science, but this is still can be readable or understandable for every single major. Yeah. So in this article, the title is Education for Environmental Citizenship and Activism through the Development of Nature-Based Solution with Pre-Surface Teaching. Right? So this is the title. And the introduction, the writer talked about several things. There are 2 subheadings over here. there's two big topics that she would like to mention. The first one is integrating environmental citizen practices in teacher training. And the second one, nature-based solution as a resource for the active participation in climate change and biodiversity loss. So here, the researcher tried to tell about the basic theory here, the basic theory that the definition, the purpose by ENAC, and the need for environmental citizen. There are two basic theory used in this research. And the content here, that the need for pedagogical approach to education for environmental citizenship in times of environmental crisis, that the best way to promote changes and behavior for individual, etc. And then for the nature-based or the second subtopics, yeah, there are several paragraphs, yeah, in this subheading, and then they talk about the nature-based solutions, some examples or MDS itself, the limited public awareness, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so every single paragraph has their own topic, but still in line to the subheadings for the introduction. Yeah, and now this is the time for you to write your own map, what you're gonna say as a subheading of your introductions, and what are the things that you would like to put over there. For example, what kind of theory that you're going to use, yeah, and then what are the limitations that maybe happens in this research, based on your own context, based on your own title. Next, the second one, for second number 2, you are in charge for the review of related literature. Yeah, based on the example that I mentioned before, the review of related literature consists of two. Right, this writer tried to refer to two main basic theory. The first one is environmental citizenship education, or ACA, and the second one is nature-based solution, or NBS. Yeah, so basically they talk about the descriptions of learning activities by stages of pedagogical approach to education of our environmental citizenship, and for point 1.2, NBS implemented in school campus by different work groups and stakeholders interviewed. So this is basically what they talk about, the basic theory. And then for person number 3, you're going to talk about the method. Yeah, the first thing that you have to talk is the research methodology. So what kind of research methodology that you use over there? And then a plan. For example, this research we're going to employ qualitative research methodology, or case study, or quantitative research methodology, or experimental study, or quasi-experimental, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so you have to fill out the 3 dots over there by the research methodology that you're going to use for your own research. For number 2, who are the participants? Yeah, the locations of the study, the population, or maybe the sample that you are going to use for your research. If you are in the qualitative, you will use the term participant. If you are in the quantitative, maybe you will use sample or populations. And then after that, you have to mention about the data collection, how you gather the data, what are the process. You have to find out, yeah, the term that you use to have the data collections. Yeah, for example, for when you do the data collections, you are going to use, for example, interview, you're going to use a survey, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so write it down on the dots over there. And number 5, how do you do the process of data analysis? How you analyze the data? Maybe you're going to use descriptive statistics. Maybe you're going to use ANAFA. Maybe you're going to use you're going to use the criteria. Yeah, you're going to make the themes for the qualitative. Yeah, so this is what you have to do for the data analysis. And number 4, ethical aspect of the research. What are the ethical aspects that you make sure that every single data that you took are valid? The instruments also valid. Yeah, maybe for example, you do the process of the review to the experts, yeah, and then after that you do the process of tryout, yeah, and so on and so forth for your instruments. And the last one, you need to see the limitation of your study. Yeah, so if you have a limitation, something that you cannot afford for this study, you have to mention to the readers what will be your limitations. Next, for person number 3 or number 5, we will talk about the result or finding. Yeah, result or finding. Here, maybe you can collaborate each other. So, what do you mean by the result? The result will consist of number 1, the presentation of the categories or the theme, if you are in the qualitative research. Yeah, so after that you have to put, for example, the result of your the criteria of your interview interview answer criteria of your questionnaire or surveys, and so on and so forth. If you are in the quantitative research methodology, you will presents, yeah, the result of your instruments, the result of your tests, for example, for looking at the students' achievements, yeah, the result of the interview, yeah, and so on and so forth. Yeah, and number two, you have to do the interpretations of the finding, how you interpret the data. For example, when you see there is a significant a significant difference from the students' results of the average scores from the uh, pre-test, and then after that compared to the post-test, and how you interpret them, yeah, whether there is a kind of significant impact, yeah, or not, for example, like that, if you are talking about the experimental study. And when you make the qualitative research methodology, you will be able to interpret the findings after you do the process of making the criteria and present the criteria on the themes. Yeah, so what does it mean after after you see the result of the uh, questionnaire, the result of the survey, the result of the question and answer or interview process? How do you interpret the answers of all of the participants that you involve in your research? And after that, you have to check the reliability and validity of the data, how you make sure that the data is reliable, not not change, yeah, because of different kind of situation, for example. And how can you make sure that every single questions that you ask is really ask what you're looking for, that we'll call as a valid, yeah. And also when you make the qualitative, there will be a reflexivity and trustworthiness. How can you make sure that the answer of the participants that you ask for your research is really the real answer, not something that they make it up, yeah. So not a false information, but actually the valid one, the real one. And then you have to explain to the readers how you do that. Yeah, maybe you do the process by having a triangulations, but how is the process of the triangulations? And number four, comparisons with the previous study. So you will compare what you have found with the result of the previous study. You can go back again to the previous study that you took for your introductions, yeah. So is there any difference or similarities? And after that, you have to take conclusion of the finding in short, yeah. And then the next one is the discussions. Yeah, discussion is the place for you where you put the point of scientific writing. After you have the findings over there, you have to make people, especially the readers, yeah, think that what you have found is something that worth to be read, worth to be implement in their situations, worth to be as the references for their future research by having the discussion. Because in this part, you have to do several important things. Number one, after you have the conclusions of the finding and you restate it again in the discussions, and after that you have to interpret of the finding in short, yeah. And of course, after you do the process of interpretations and also conclusions of the finding, you have to compare your finding with the existing theory, meaning that what you found is basically not something not scientific, or not something that cannot be trusted, because there are many theories that still reliable, that still relevant to your findings, yeah. So you will talk you will take those kind of references that maybe support your finding, or maybe not support or against, or in a different way of your findings, or even there's still some of the theories about it, but your finding will take positions as the additions of the previous theories. So this is what we have to do in the discussion. Basically, this is the function of discussion: to find the theory that support, against, or to find the position of our finding become the new theory or the additional of the previous theories. And number 4, you have to give the generalizations or generalizability and transferability. How can you generalize? How can you make the conclusions of your finding can be as the representative of the bigger community? So when you find that there is the effect, for example, of using mind map to improve students' achievement in writing, for example. Now, so after you do the process of the discussion, you have to make how it gonna be relevant, yeah, or generalized to other situations, not only in the on your own research on the certain context. For example, you do your research for students at elementary school level. So you are sure that not only elementary school that you took as the sample of your study, for example, SDN Negeri Nomor 5, but it also happens in other SDN, for example, at least with the similar characteristic. So make sure that you make the generalization and also transferability. And number 5, practical implications. How can you derive the finding that you find and then the positions of those finding with the existing theories will make a kind of practical implications, yeah, towards all of the stakeholders, maybe for the teachers, for example, for the students if you are talking in education system, or maybe for the developer of the websites if you are in the information systems, or maybe for the for the farmer, for if you are in the biology the major, yeah. So make sure that there is a practical implications. And also the second one, that will be a kind of theoretical implications. So how can we imply, how can we take the position of our finding will contribute to the theory, the basic theory that you took at the beginning of the process. So you will have a kind of your own role in the world of the subject of the study, yeah. For example, if we talk about mind map, yeah, this is the strategy of writing. So how can the result of your study will take positions in the strategy of writings, yeah, by presenting your result of the study. And then the last one, this is going to be also for the person one, because you also talk about the conclusions, yeah. The conclusion only consists of 2 things. The first one, directly answer the research problem or research objectives, yeah. So if your questions or research problem is, yeah, what is the effect of using mind map to increase students achievement in writing? So the answer is here on the conclusion, you will answer directly. The first effect is they can make the students able to organize their idea, for example. The second one, the mind map will help them to make their temporary conclusions. And number 3, and so on and so forth. So that's the importance things that you need to answer based on your research problem. And after that, what I go back to your limitations in the previous chapter or previous part, and then here you have to recommend, yeah, what probably the best way for the future research to be able to finish the limitations of your study, to reveal, yeah, the things that you cannot reveal from this study. It will help the future researcher to figure out what kind of methods they're gonna use, what kind of population or sample that they're gonna use, whether they have to use bigger number, and so on and so forth, yeah. And I think those are the things, yeah, related to the mind mapping. This is a process of brainstorming of innovative ideas, and I hope that you do it during the process of discussion with your groups. Yeah, make sure you try to see and read the sample of the article that I have sent you the link, and then after that you have to discuss with your friends what you're going to say in each part of the subheadings that you will write as your final project later on. Remember, the assignments is only 1 page per each person's, not more than that, but you have to put your predictions, your plans, yeah, about what you're gonna write and what you're gonna do for your future research problem. I think that's all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye bye.